Welcome to another episode of
Talk, Heal, Evolve. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Ebony.
Ebony, let's take them on a journey of healing and self-discovery.
Yes.
Grab your seat.
Wrap yourself in a cozy blanket.
Don't forget that journal.
And prepare to dive into conversations that nurture the soul.
I think it's time to create intentional space for growth and evolution.
Girl, you ready?
Let's get into it.
Welcome, guys, to another episode on Talk, Heal, Evolve. I'm your girl, Ebony.
Stephanie.
And we are here today with another banger.
Yes.
We got some good stuff for you all today. Yes. So, Stephanie.
Yes.
How do you feel about today's topic?
I like it. I think it's important because it's a little bit for everybody.
It's always a little bit for everybody.
Yeah, it's a little bit for everybody.
Always. So today's topic surrounds relationships, right? Are we growing together or are we growing apart?
Right.
I feel like...
You about to go to church?
Listen. Are we growing together or are we growing apart?
Yeah, the distinction is very important. And I don't think a lot of people know.
Holding on to the growing apart is crazy. But don't we do it?
Yes.
Holding on to the growing apart.
Yes.
Okay.
And Stephanie. I just want to preface this episode by saying that we're talking about all kinds of relationships.
Absolutely.
What are you holding on to that's not serving you? That relationship is what we're talking about.
Absolutely. This is not just intimate. This is family, friends, business partners.
Yes.
Absolutely any type of relationship that you can have with another human being.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So, all right. Let's get into it.
So, I think that one of the most important things that people fail to mention nowadays is that it's important to develop relationships wherever you go.
Absolutely.
Right? Like you said, Ebony, we have intimate relationships. We have friendships. We have vendorships, meaning our business partners.
Absolutely.
And you even have associates that you develop relationships with, right? Let's say your kids' teachers, your neighbors, people that are not necessarily in your circle, but there's still a relationship there.
Right.
And you really have to identify if those relationships are serving you or if they're not.
Exactly.
And if they're not, what's your exit strategy?
Yeah.
So what's the most important thing you think in identifying how your relationship serves you or if it serves you?
I think one is the communication.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because the most important thing before you can even ask the question of, is the relationship serving me? Is to ask yourself, what do you want to accomplish out of the relationship?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, what are you there to get out of the relationship? And not in a selfish, manipulative type of
way.
right.
Yeah.
But we're coming together in some way. And what do I want to accomplish out of this?
Yeah.
You know? Whether it's with, like you said, with your child's teacher, right? I mean, the relationship would be built on making sure that your child is getting the education and the attention that they need when they're not in your care, right?
Right.
So then I think first is acknowledging what it is you want to get out of that relationship and then what you want to bring into the relationship while also communicating to the other person the goals that you want to get within the relationship, right?
Yeah.
So it's knowing it within yourself from both angles, give and receive, and then it's communicating what you would like to receive for the benefit of the actual relationship.
Absolutely. And it's so funny that sometimes we want all the things, but we don't even know how to communicate that.
Very much true.
And so how can you expect someone else to know what you want?
Listen,
if you can't even tell them what you want?
Why the girls be out here thinking they mind readers? Cause I can't read your mind. It ain't even just the girlies though. It's not even just the girlies. It be everybody. It be like, listen, please communicate because I don't know what you're thinking.
Right.
And I'm not a magician and I'm not trying.
Listen. Yeah.
I'm not here for it.
Don't pay me enough.
You don't pay me enough.
Right. And so, just communicating what your needs are before you try to say you're not serving me or that you are. Because you may think that you're in a relationship that's growing you and um, elevating you,
Yeah.
and then you realize that it's not. But is
Right.
it too late at that point?
Yeah.
Have you already been dwarfed in your growth or stunted? You know what I'm saying? And so just to be able to talk things out and communicate to people what you need, I think is super important.
Agreed. And I want to add in there that every relationship is not always beneficial.
Right.
But I mean this, so I'm about to flip it a little bit. Because, like, one of the things that we talk about behind the scenes is how I have the habit of wanting to build people up, even when they don't ask for it.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm going to give and I'm going to pour into people with no expectation of anything in return. You know what I mean? And the only time that I will stop within that moment, within that person, is if what I'm doing or what I am giving or what I am pouring is not being received, right? But I don't have an expectation of, because I give you this information, you need to do da 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 da. No, it's because I've been where you are.
Yeah.
And I see so much in you. If you just get past this hurdle that you're dealing with,
Yeah.
you could be amazing. So it's me kind of just giving space for where you are, but then also giving you as many tools as I possibly can for you to work through it, because no matter where you are in life, you can never work through somebody else's issues. You can
That is
never
correct.
do the work for someone,
Yeah.
because it'll never, it's like giving somebody the answers on a test. It's easy and yeah, I may pass, but
Yeah.
you doing the work hinders me more than it helps me.
Absolutely.
It hinders me more than it helps me.
Absolutely. Because now I'm elevated to the next level in
Without
life
even
without being prepared.
without being listen, that is the importance of going through it yourself and getting the lesson.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I say all that to say that some relationships you won't have to have that communication, right? It's just showing up and being a space for people and letting people see you where you are in hopes that they will then take on whatever it is you have to give and kind of implement it in their lives for their evolution.
Absolutely. But I also want to point out that when you are giving to people, make sure it's not draining you.
For sure.
Because
at that point you gotta go.
Yes. Yeah. Because some people will take. Yes, and it's unfortunate because you're so kind-hearted to even want to do that for someone. So for them to just see it as an opportunity to manipulate is just wild to me.
Yeah, it is. But sometimes one thing that I always say is I will do as much as I can just to watch and see how much you take and what you do with what I give.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I have like a kind heart and I always want to see the good in people, I will observe how you are in that moment. Yeah. If I show you compassion and then in return you don't have compassion for me or other people when I'm around you. Right. I am watching how you are, how you interact, because it's going to tell me a lot about your character. You know what I mean? So I think that's important as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And being able to communicate those changes too. Yeah. Right? So as your relationships grow and develop and they change, are you able to let that person know?
Absolutely. Well, that's the biggest thing. And that communication is key. And I know that's something that we're going to say here a lot on this podcast, but I think that people need to realize that being able to communicate who you are, where you are, what it is you want,
how you're
what it is
feeling.
How you're feeling. All of those things are so very important and beneficial to any relationship you have with any person. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you do yourself a disservice when you keep things bottled up.
Very true.
And you just become so angry, right? And people just living their lives going
without even knowing.
Right. Because they just don't know. So
some don't know and some don't care.
Some don't care.
But if you don't communicate it, you can't blame anybody but yourself.
Correct. And if you're doing too much communicating, well, it's time to go.
Time to go.
I don't need to tell you something 50, 11 times.
Listen, I feel like I don't even need to tell you 3. Yeah. If you hold me to the standard that I hold myself, I wouldn't even allow it to get to a 3rd time, right? Because if you're telling me something and I'm taking it in, and It also depends on the type of person you are, because if you're just telling me something to have control of the situation, there's a
Right.
difference. But if you're telling me that it's something that I said or that I've done
Mm-hmm.
that has hurt you in some way, I'll acknowledge, like, okay, if that hurts, and I'll have compassion, and moving forward I would know, like, okay, this is a trigger for you, this doesn't make you feel good, let me not do that.
Yeah.
However, there is a very thin line, people, because what we don't want is for you to be around someone who is always the victim in
Oh
something
my God.
and who was always hurt.
Yes.
And now you have to alter who you are, and you have to walk on eggshells because you don't want to upset this person. That right there is too much, right? And it's not
Way.
what we're talking about.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Uh-uh.
So let's get into it. Listen. Me and Stephanie, we have talked about this show on Netflix, right?
Yeah.
And what's the name of the show again?
Love is Blind.
Love is Blind, right?
Guilty pleasure.
I don't know if it's a guilty pleasure. For me, I don't watch TV. So when I seen it, I was like, this should be called Love and Dysfunction. Because this is so dysfunctional. It is crazy to me, right? So again, I haven't watched it from beginning to end. Maybe like bits and pieces of it, because some people relationships I will like skip through.
Bro, yeah.
Just go right through. This is It's certain people that I want to see and see where they get to.
Listen,
beginning, end, and just let me know how it ended. So it's been very interesting because, you know, one of the things we talked about is how toxic relationships are like at the forefront these days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna throw it to you.
Why?
Because
did you want me to be the bad guy?
I know.
Why? So I think that one of the most important things that we talked about, again, in relation to the same show, is that people will act and be who they are and move about life just like that, right?
Yep.
You'll hear your friends and family and partners say things about you, take it, brush it off, but being able to actually see how you function with your own eyes, like outside of yourself, is crazy.
Listen, and I think we don't get to see that.
Right.
So when we are watching shows like this and we see people, and it's like having grace to know that this is how this person is in life.
Yeah.
And they don't get to see themselves. But in this moment, they get to go back and watch how they showed up on television to make changes for a very quick evolution, which is crazy because you then get to choose, like, damn, is this how I'm showing up to people?
Right. You see it automatically.
Which is
crazy, and which is why sometimes I feel bad being so judgmental. But I mean, that's what it's out there for. This is what the entertainment space is for in that essence. Because you watch a show, you have your opinion about it. But also realizing that these are real people.
Real people.
And half the time, I won't say all the time, half the time, real emotions, you know?
Absolutely.
So just having, space for them to grieve, grow, be, and then evolve, hopefully, once they have an opportunity to see themselves. Right. It's so important.
It is. And I think, so for me, it's a little bit easier for me to have grace. For one, because I look at the ages of the people. A lot of them are in their 20s, right?
Yes.
We're still getting to know who we are in our 20s, right?
Yeah.
And also, I've been those girls.
Yeah.
I've been in those moments. You know what I mean? Like, not every single moment they've had, but I can see parts of me in them in those moments. And because I've dealt with those parts and I continue to deal with those parts, I'm like, ooh, girl, this is not a good look.
Yeah.
You know? So let's talk about playing the victim.
Yeah. And
how manipulative it can be in a relationship, just with people in general. How always being the victim and always being hurt is a huge red flag.
Yeah, huge red flag. And that's not a method of communication.
Oh, gosh, it's not.
You know, it's complaining.
It's manipulation.
You know, it's toxicity.
It really is.
All of those negative things. It's not how you communicate. Communicate is just clearly telling someone after you've reflected on your feelings, right? Are they valid? You know, did I overreact or not? How do I really feel? Once you've gathered yourself,
That part.
then
That's
you come back to
important.
me.
That's important because how many times do we not reflect and we just
Mm-hmm.
jump the gun and regret our decisions later?
Absolutely. Yep.
Like regret because in the moment or because you had a drink or two, you said something that you didn't mean. But
Mm-hmm.
you have to understand that everything has a consequence. Every
Absolutely.
action has a reaction, whether good or bad. So having the time to reflect on how it is you really feel and if what you feel is true to what the situation is or if
Yeah.
like you said it's just reacting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as you create the space and open up your mouth to say something, just understand that whatever you say comes with a reaction.
Absolutely. And
You know
it's
what I
up
mean?
to that person how they choose to react
Exactly.
based on what you say. So if you show up hostile, then they have a right to react to that. If you show up playing a victim and just being, you know, just crazy or negative, they have a right to react to that, you know, and you can only do so much, right? You just have to really, I think it's important again to take time and just sit with your feelings for a bit and then come
Yeah.
back to them. And that's how you communicate. Communication is not, oh, what you did to me and how you made me feel. I can't make you feel no type of way.
Listen, and what about the part where, because again, I'm gonna bring this back to the, and I don't remember the girl's name, but you know who I'm talking about. And how it's like you take one issue from that day, from that moment, and then you start talking about every fucking issue that there
Yeah.
is about the relationship. How toxic is that?
Yeah.
It's like, can we just deal with what is going on in this moment?
Yeah.
Because how many times do I have to apologize for
For
the same thing?
I cannot.
It's draining.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is draining.
Who wants to be with somebody who's taking note of every single thing to wait for the right opportunity to pounce?
And how bad is it to be so upset, and I hate to use these words, miserable, because sometimes we just don't know, right? But to complain and to nag and to be dissatisfied with someone because of something that they may have or may have not done, right?
Right.
Because we perceive things to be
Yeah.
like, so you can think it was this way, but in fact it was that way because we didn't have proper communication. And all
Yeah.
it took was a conversation for us to really have an understanding for each other. And it's like, but for you to be in that space and drain me of my energy, why would I even allow that?
Yeah.
Why, like, how far would I even allow you to push me to my end point?
Yeah. And you know, it's so funny because my grandmother would always say, and it's so true, like in every relationship, you pick your battles, right?
Yeah.
You pick the things that you want to bring up, you pick the things that you would like to argue your point about. Because if you did it for everything,
Oh gosh,
who's gonna want to be with you?
Who?
Like, you're taking
listen,
every bit of me.
That's a real one though. That's a real one. And picking your battles and choosing your battles is so important because everything doesn't need to be an argument or discussion.
I don't even think everything needs to be addressed. Right, a discussion.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to pick up the socks, like, you know, and keep it moving. Like, wash the dish. Like, I don't. Some things just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's so weird. Everything
Yeah.
doesn't need to be an argument.
It doesn't. Or a discussion.
Right.
And the thing is, how do we move forward as a community where we have an understanding that toxicity is not even a thing that should be in relationships, right?
That's a hard one.
Moving forward with just love.
That is a
You know what I
hard
mean?
one. I think that
We need to see it more.
we definitely need to see it more. That's exactly what I was about to say. These shows are very intentional.
Yes.
You know, they know that the drama brings ratings, and they create these scenarios for us. So even in instances where there is love and peace and harmony and things, they really don't show those things. They gloss over them.
Don't show it. And I think that is the issue. Now, not to say that a relationship won't have its trials and tribulations.
Right.
Yes, it will, right? But what I mean is relationships don't have to be so like we're at war.
Yes.
like we're
Yeah.
at war in our own
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
In our
Yeah.
own
Who
home
does that?
with each other, where
Yeah.
you are my piece and I am your piece, and
Mm-hmm.
when we come together, we are us against the world. Why
Right.
would we have war in our own home?
Right. Right. Right.
That's
I wish
draining.
more people looked at it like that. You know, because if there is a war out there, we're on the same team. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I would hope for.
Right,
Right.
right. And so we don't need no friendly fire over here. We just trying to make it through this world and, you know, build. But how can you do that if we're always bickering and fighting, you know?
And so that's a good one, right? Because when you think about it and the longevity of it, right? And what that looks like, and how to navigate through certain situations that only people who have been together for long periods of time can navigate through. Because I think that we have so many conversations amongst us about what people would do and what they will take and what they wouldn't take and how it should
Yeah.
be. And it's like, baby ain't even been in a relationship past 2 years.
Right.
What are you giving advice on?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I think that it's easy to say what you won't stand for and what you will stand for when you've not been in a
Standing in
relationship.
it.
Listen, right? We're talking
Yeah.
about 5 years, 8 years, 10
Yeah.
years, 12 years, 20 years. That takes work. And the
It
thing is, a
does.
relationship a marriage takes work.
Period. Yep.
It
It
all
sure
takes,
does.
just like self-love take work, building a business takes work, success take work. What
Life
make you think your
takes work.
relationship would be any
Correct.
different?
Correct.
You
And
know?
you know, it's so funny because I don't think people legitimately think about it, right?
Yeah.
You are a 20-something, 30-something, 40-something, whatever, year old person getting together with a 20-something, 30-something, 40-something year old person,
Exactly.
right? So you've been this way,
With all your
nurturing
experiences.
yourself,
Yep.
right? All of your experiences, your traumas, your education, all of this bundled up, trying to marry it with something else or someone else.
Yep.
There's gonna be some learning curve. There's
There
gonna be
is.
some, you know, tugging and pulling. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that y'all come out on the same team, you know, and you
Absolutely.
can communicate and work through that. If y'all ain't got no conflict resolution skills,
Listen,
it ain't gonna work.
conflict resolution is at the top of my list.
Yes, as it should be.
It's at the top of my list because I want to know that when things come down to it, when the
Yeah.
shit hit the fan, can I rely on you to help me navigate this world? You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
Can I help you? Can I rely on you to help me come up with solid solutions? Or can I look to you
Yeah.
as the man or the woman or whatever it is you are in your relationship? Can I look to you for a solid foundation to know, all right, well, that babe, whatever I'm leaning on you on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, for real.
How we getting through this one? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I think that it is so very important to, before you even get into something really serious, before you even call it a relationship, I feel like you need to know how that person operates inside of conflict.
Absolutely. And do they consider you?
And do they
You know?
listen?
Because if
Do
you
they
don't
consider
me,
you?
what are we even doing?
Please tell the people what that even looks like, okay?
Listen, you will be so surprised. And I'm going to give two completely different scenarios because I think it's important in relationship and it's also important in building friendship,
For
right?
sure.
Because if you are my husband or you know, my wife, whatever,
Yeah.
and in our arguments, you don't consider me enough to not try to intentionally hurt my feelings, there's a problem.
There's a problem.
Why are you thinking of things to say to hurt me? You know what I mean? Why would you want to have that everlasting? I'll never forget those lessons that we learned in school where they dropped the vase on the floor.
Yeah.
Right? And then you glue it back together. That's just sorry. This shit don't never look the same.
It don't. Ooh.
You know?
It don't never look the same.
Never
You
look the
cannot
same.
take back. What, I don't care how many sorries you have in this world.
Yep.
Once it is out there, it is out
It is
there.
out there.
And then it is
that,
now for
especially
me
the
to deal with
intentional hurt.
that part.
Yeah. It's
The
so crazy.
intentional hurt. But when you are not considering me, that's intentional.
Absolutely.
You're not considering. And then not even to say you're not considering me and our family.
Wow. Yeah. And we see it so much.
We see it so much.
See it
You're
so
not
much.
considering me, how I would feel. You're not considering these kids and how they would feel.
And you know where we see it the most? In infidelity.
In infidelity.
Right? Because you're stepping outside of this
Ooh.
house without consideration of how it's going to affect this house.
Of how it's going to affect.
Right. But then whenever it hits the fan and you get caught, then it's, oh, you're thinking of all the things. No,
Right.
my G, you should have thought about that a long time ago.
Right.
You know? And so I think we
Ooh.
see it so much that it's just like,
Yeah.
you know?
But you know, I want to play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think that sometimes it's very easy to point the finger. Infidelity is never right? And I think that before you even get to that point, you need to learn how to communicate,
Yes.
right? And if it's something that you can't do, go get a therapist or a counselor, somebody that you can talk to that's going to create that safe environment.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But also, when it comes to two people being together, when you, what is it that they say? Like when you kind of get cold with somebody and you kind of shut them out.
Yeah.
You shut down and you shut them out.
Yeah.
It is very unfair. It's so unfair. It's like, we can't have sex. I can't touch you. I don't come home and I'm happy.
Yeah.
It is, you know, and I think that in relationships, it's easy to kind of get caught up in other things.
Yeah.
Because your focus has to be on so much more, especially when you're like building a family and you have family and stuff like that you have to take care of. So it's easy to get caught off guard, but I think it's very important to make sure that us as a couple, we have that intentional time. Because if you shut me out, how long? You know, one day can turn into a month, 1 month can turn into 2 years.
Yes.
And then it's like, so you expect for me to sit here for 2 years with no intimacy
Yeah.
and be okay with that?
So I think that goes back to choice, right? You chose to sit there for 2 years without getting intimacy from your partner, without getting love and affection, right? So if I have communicated my feelings to you, I don't like the space that we're in. We should go to therapy.
Right.
If I continually try and I am getting that cold shoulder, I'm going to remove myself, right?
Yeah.
And you can't fault me for that then. But I'm not going to step outside of my marriage just because you're not giving me none. My hands work fine. I got batteries.
Yeah,
You know
I think
what
it's
I'm
easier for
saying?
a woman to say than a man, though.
I don't think so. I think everybody should know themselves. Their hands work fine too.
That is true. Discipline,
yes.
discipline. I
Yes.
think that's the important thing. But then also, this is let me tell you.
You can leave at any point.
You can leave at any point,
long as you
but it's easier
communicated.
said than done because nobody really wants to. And you know, I heard a statistic, even though I don't really believe in those, but I did hear a statistic where they said it's a higher percentage of women that will go through a divorce than it is men, because men will stay in a marriage and just bear through that shit. Like they'll live.
That's your problem.
You know what I'm saying?
That's your choice. That's your choice to
Yeah.
do that. So you would feel okay with potentially going outside of your marriage, getting all the things that you ain't supposed to get, to then reconcile with your wife and give her all the things that she didn't ask for.
That's
That's just crazy
interesting.
to me. You bringing in all those spirits, potential diseases, potential children, all that stuff
Very
back
true.
into this house.
Very true.
Nah, son, go your way.
But women do it too, and not
They do.
even in a infidelity way, but you're unhappy.
Emotional too.
Right, you're unhappy. You don't love him. You don't know who you are anymore when you look in the mirror, but you stay because we have kids together.
Yeah.
It's like, but baby, the kids see
Yep.
everything.
They sure do.
So if you're unhappy, it doesn't have to be something that you say or something
Yeah.
that you do. It's just the way you are and
They
way
feel the vibes.
They feel the vibes.
Yeah.
They know.
They be knowing.
Listen.
They be knowing.
They be knowing, and then you have to ask yourself, what type of example
Yes.
am I setting if I stay in something? If I choose everything over loving who I am.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Love yourself.
Listen, and that's why it's so important, because I think sometimes, especially in our society, we can place the things that we need, we say we need or we want, onto other people, as
Yeah.
if what it is we need and want is outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
Nothing that we need for our soul, for our purpose, is outside of us.
Yeah.
It's all in us.
Yeah.
But if we don't recognize it, then how can we unlock it?
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
If you feel as though, because I remember even on that show, one of the girls was doing like a confessional, and she was saying like, I'm just here because I want my daughter to see me happy, and I just don't see, you know, she was like, I want my daughter to see me happy, and I just think that once I get married and all these things, then I'll just be happy. And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
That's how we're thinking out here. Like the fact that you think that marriage is what's going to bring you happy.
Yes.
That's the wrong way to look at it.
And that's what you're showing your children.
And that's what you're showing your children.
Yeah.
That in order for me to be happy, I need ... And girl, you're in your 20s. Calm down. Take a breather. You know what I'm saying? Like, happiness comes from within.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just finding that is a beautiful process. You know what I'm saying?
But it's not even a find.
So
realizing it.
Well, okay, yes, realizing it. Just
that,
coming to it and just finding you is such a beautiful thing to do. And so just to think that it has to be external is crazy to me.
Yeah. I ain't calling y'all crazy or nothing, because you don't get it until you're in it. That it's like, damn, what have I been this entire time? That's all I had to do was just realize that everything that it is I'm searching for, that I want, is really inside of me. And it's just, it's one of those, you have to have a paradigm shift, right? You just come into the knowing of, yo, I forgot how fucking dope I am.
Yeah.
I forgot who I am.
Whose I am.
Listen,
because listen, he be knowing.
Listen.
You know what I'm saying? So just take time and figure out
patience.
The intricate pieces. Yes, patience
for the journey.
Sitting with yourself, just recognizing.
Very true. Very
true. Super important.
Very true.
The other side of conflict resolution, I think, is in business relationships, and I don't think we talk about it enough. Right?
Let's get into it.
So, let's say, for instance, in my industry, in the wedding industry,
yes,
we get to a venue, and there's an issue. Elevator too small, too many people at the loading dock. What are we doing?
Right.
So we're supposed to work together to make this beautiful event happen, but you can't look out for me, and I'm not looking out for you. Then why are we even here? What are we doing?
Yeah.
So to say that we have a vendorship, that's not what you're showing me. How do we come together to make this shit shake?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it was such a beautiful experience this past weekend, because we did a wedding, same issue. Well, this is my example, obviously. Loading dock, overloaded, elevator too small, 4 flights of stairs. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But everybody really came together. And, you see these people in passing, you work events all the time, and there's that one that just ain't with the crew. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's just like, why are you even here?
Right.
Everybody else, okay, let me stand on this. I'll run it up the stairs. And it's just like, dang. And just like the level of appreciation that I gained, or more so gained for them, is just like, dang, you out here, there's an issue that we're all facing, and you looking out for me. You facing the same issue. Right,
because we understand what the big picture is.
Yes.
We get that.
Yes.
And we are stronger together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you consider me and I consider you, guess what? We're going to make shit shake, right?
Exactly.
So I think it's important on...
And you build on that.
Yes.
You build on that.
Those are the type of people that I want in my corner. That's who I want to work with. I don't want to work with people who... That's your problem. I'm just focusing on getting my stuff. Because guess what?
Listen.
If my shit don't make it upstairs, ain't nothing happening up in here.
Listen.
So what are we doing?
That part. And I think that's the most important thing. And what I take so serious in my business relationships is if I cannot see you as a friend, if I can't see you as someone that I can count on, and I won't do business with you.
Yeah.
I won't do you. I've had people mention that to me, and even actually give me compliments on how I show up in business, or the type of business, like people that I'm connected to in business, because it's like, what are we doing? I think the vendorship is actually important, and it made me think about when we created Snack and Chat, and how we were all solopreneurs.
Yes.
We were all solopreneurs, but when a client reached out It was one
Whole
contract, one
network.
invoice. They thought, oh, you
Yeah.
running an entire company. Sure am.
Yes.
Because I have bartender on board for all the
Yes.
alcoholic beverages. I had Amaris for all the coordination and
Yes.
event planning. I had you for all the rentals and the showroom when you had it.
Yeah.
We had, like, it was everybody came together. There was, oh, I need to talk to the client. I need my own contract.
Yeah,
It
no.
was never none of that. It was
No.
like, oh, I got it. Cool. What's up? Just, yep. Send me the
And
money.
guess what? Everybody grew from that experience.
Everybody.
So if you're not growing from the connections and relationships you have, you just...
If you're not growing from the relationships that you have, that's because however you are showing up for people is saying a lot about you.
Yes.
And when people don't come back and people don't want to do business or people don't want to bring business to you, it
Yes.
says a lot about how you show up.
Absolutely. Because it's not just your business that matters, it's you
Yeah.
that matter, right? Because you may cook great, but if the spirit ain't good...
Listen, people buy. That's why I always tell people, and people laugh when I say this. You can be a shitty chef and have a shitty catering company, because if you are a good person and people love your personality, people buy into who you are.
Yes, for sure.
I have seen so many caterers in Atlanta pick some shit up from Costco's and serve it. I'm not joking. Catering companies you wouldn't think of. And I'm like, they're getting away with this shit. And they're still making dope money. But it's because people buy into relationships.
Absolutely.
And the relationship that you have.
Yep.
Shitty food, good service, I'll take it.
Yes, right?
I'll take it.
Right?
Just throw some salt and pepper on there.
You are hilarious.
You can have really great food and a bad personality.
Yeah.
And they're just not going to call you back. They're just not going to call you back. I've been in a place where I didn't want the client to call me.
That's crazy.
Let's talk. I've had some clients, I'm like, oh, Lord, please don't ever call me.
Right. Please don't let my price be too high. Please. That's hilarious. So I think building that network is super important,
It is
right?
super important.
And so how does your support system affect your relationships?
Support system in general.
Yeah.
I think your support system can make or break your relationships.
Absolutely.
You know what I
Tell
mean?
them how, Ebony. Tell them how.
Your support system can break your relationship in a way of every time you come into some type of conflict with your person, friendship or whatever, and you run and tell. You're the run and tell person.
Girl, yeah.
You're the run and tell mom, run and tell dad, run and tell my friends about everything that's wrong, but never are you calling them when everything is right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one way. And another way, negative Nancy
Yes.
and grandma who ain't been married in 45 years.
Listen.
And your friends who ain't been in a relationship past 2 years, ain't never been proposed to, ain't never been married,
Yep.
but got 4 kids. Now, let me stop.
You are being very specific right now.
Y'all got to stop listening to them.
For real.
Okay?
Yeah.
Like, how are you taking advice from someone who is nowhere near where you're trying to be?
Yeah.
If you are in a healthy relationship or a healthy marriage, if you haven't seen years, if you haven't put work into it, why am I coming to you
Why?
about my relationship?
And you know what it does? It also, when you are running back and telling these people all these stories, right? And you call it trying to get advice or, you know, just talking things through or whatever, but it's always negative.
Right.
When those people come in contact with your spouse, they come in with, you know,
all
sort
the
of
energy.
Yes.
Because for one, they're in protection mode
of you.
right?
So you caused this.
But then it's so unfair because you've gotten past it.
Yeah.
But because you never relate to them like
that we're okay now.
we're okay now,
Yeah.
or that was just a moment. We have more positive moments than we have
Right.
bad. It's just, for one, I think that it is very immature for you to be a run and tell that type of person.
Absolutely.
Because what we have is sacred. So
Not
can
run
we
and tell
not
that.
run and tell that? Not here run and tell that.
Right.
Not here run and tell that. God damn. Now we disguising it as what's the T. Nah.
Right. No, boo.
But it's like, what we have is sacred. So not to say that of course we want to have a space where we can go and communicate with someone or people, or if that looks like the church for you, or if that looks like a counselor for you, someone who is an expert in the field of
Yeah.
relationships that can hold you both accountable for when you are right and when you are wrong.
That's a key word. Hold you both accountable, because your family is listening to your side of the story.
Listen.
And to you, you ain't never wrong.
Never wrong.
You know, never what you did. It's always what they did. And so not even having that balance for them to give you informed advice.
Exactly.
Is skewed, right?
Exactly.
And so having that person, like you said, who's a neutral party, who has some experience in the area, and they have a relationship or a standard that you want yours to get to.
Exactly.
It's so important.
It's really important. I think that's what helps maintain healthy anything, though.
Yeah.
If you don't have someone or people that you are looking to who are in the space where you want to be,
Yeah.
how in the hell?
Yep.
How? You have to have, and that's why I love mentors so much, because it's people who I aspire in some way, whether it's just a little thing like a character trait, or whether it's a marriage that I deem as healthy, or whether it's success that I deem as successful. I will gravitate towards you and I will latch on to you.
Yeah.
You are a mentor for life. You are a person that I feel that you, in some area in life, I would love to obtain something like that for myself, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it's so important to always put yourself in those rooms where you are looking up to people. Because if you are in the group and you're like the one person who knows it all and got all the answers, you can't really go that far if you're the one.
You're not growing.
You're really not growing.
You're not growing, which is crazy. So how do you grow? How do you continue to grow in your relationship? Let's talk about like autonomy, right? And just being that person that you always been, that you've wanted to be, right? And then coming back to the relationship with those new experiences.
I think that's the healthiest thing that you can actually possibly do.
Same.
Right? And I can only speak from experience of being on both sides of the fence, right? Getting lost in someone and looking up one day and realizing like, yo, who am I? What is it that I love and what is it that I like?
Yeah.
I think that for a lot of people, we can get lost. We lose ourselves in relationships and marriages, right? But I think it's such a beautiful thing when you can go out in the world and experience it on your own.
Yeah.
Not with the girls, not with the bros, not with family, but I think that it's certain things that you should be able to just go out, whether it's in nature, whether it's exercising, whether it's doing something that's creative, but it's trying things that you've never even done before, right? Mm-hmm. And experiencing those things and then coming back and being like, babe, this is what I did today.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's important to have individual goals and expectations for yourself.
Yes.
But then also have goals for the relationship and expectations for the evolution of the relationship together, right?
Yeah.
So y'all both have something separate and then you have something coming together.
Yeah. I think it keeps the spark or the interest too, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a point where every time you come together or on those date nights or whatever, you're like, babe, guess what I learned? Or guess what I did? You know, that kind of thing. And you just have to be careful, because I did find myself going into a space where I was too autonomous, if you will, right? And so just building up my brands and, you know, the businesses and the properties and things like that, and just not, because Abdul didn't have his thing yet, or he couldn't figure out what that was for him outside of work, just being too much to me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so you don't want to get in that space where it's just like, me. I think it's important to have that where you're both growing. And so now that he has his, you know, T-shirt thing, and it's like, okay, well, what did you print? Let me see. So having those conversations where you're able to celebrate each other.
Yes, celebration.
Is super important.
And I think that it's so beautiful when we can come together and celebrate each other.
Yes.
I think that's the best thing about a relationship, to be honest, because it's like you have your own personal, I hate to call it this, but I always say it's like your own personal cheerleader.
Yeah.
Like you have your own personal number one fan that is rooting for you, at least supposed to be, you know what I mean? And it should be that way. Like nobody outside of this house should be rooting for me louder than my man.
Yeah. And
Like,
if you don't, why are you even here?
why are you
Like,
here?
the next person should not be rude and louder than you. Because, like, you're a reflection of me and me for you.
Listen,
So,
reflection.
if
Oh,
I'm not showing up as my best self,
right.
it's because you not helping me show up as my best self. That's your job, right? And my job is to push you to be the best you.
Yeah.
So somebody's not doing the work.
Right.
And that's, I think, how we get back to that outside
Yeah.
kind of interference, if you will.
That part. And so I think that it's good to align yourself with people who are in the same situations, right?
Yes.
So that's like couples hanging out with couples, not really allowing too many, like, if I'm in a relationship, I really don't care who you are, and it ain't gonna be too many single people in my house.
Yeah.
Like, especially when I'm not there.
Yeah.
Just because I think that it's important and it's healthy to surround ourselves with people who have the same goals as us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'll have friends that may be single for the moment and stuff like that. But I think that it is important. Like, it's like the content that you subject yourself to.
Mm-hmm.
And that means in content, it means the communication and conversations that you have with the people that are around you, and how those conversations and communications can affect you in your relationship.
Absolutely.
Also, knowing that when people are in certain spaces, it may not be best for them to be around things that are happy and people that are happy.
Yes.
And it's not because they're unhappy or they're feeling miserable or bad on purpose, but
Yeah.
it's just the moment and space that they're in.
Yeah.
And sometimes by default,
Mm-hmm.
they'll interrupt your happiness.
Absolutely. Because not even on purpose too.
Not even on purpose,
right?
right.
Sometimes you get interrupted by you feeling bad for them, right? So you have to watch yourself as well, that you're not pouring into this person who's in a space where, and it then affects your relationship.
Right. That part.
That was a good conversation.
Yeah.
What tools can we give people to stay in healthy relationships? And what tools can we give to get them the hell out of them?
One of the tools that I'll share, and y'all will hear it here multiple times, like, because it is something that I just kind of stand by as a question that I ask myself, and this question is a tool for me that I got from one of my mentors a long time ago, and it's asking myself in every situation, every relationship, every place, everything that I am doing is it healthy?
Yeah.
Is it healthy? Like, is this relationship healthy for me? Am I evolving? Am I going towards being my best self, or is this hindering me? Is this unhealthy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How do I feel? Is it a healthy feeling or is it an unhealthy feeling? So that would be one of my tools, is to ask yourself, is it healthy? And if you've asked yourself that many times and the answer has continuously been no, then I think that it is time for you to exit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Another one would be putting a pros and cons list together.
Absolutely.
What are the pros? What are the cons?
Yeah.
What really matters when you actually write it down? What really matters? What actually interrupts my soul? What interrupts my morals and my values? Because if that list is long about my boundaries and my morals and my values and how you treat me and how I feel, if that cons list is longer than that pros list, then I think that you have to reevaluate where you are with that person and if this is a healthy relationship.
That's good.
What about you?
I would say, so some green flags, right? Or things to help you continue to grow would be to say nice things to your partner or your vendor or whatever. Kind of build them up, build their confidence up, because you'll be surprised how people will go about their day-to-day and they get in such a routine that they don't even think that, it's serving. This is just what they do.
Right.
And so, oh my God, thank you for that. I saw that you did whatever. And you would just be so surprised how, like, something so small makes such a big impact. Yeah. And then I would say, to get the hell on, would be would be to identify if you feel more sad and disgusted, then you do feel happy. You know, because a lot of times there are a lot of happy moments, but if it's consistent arguing in between those moments, you're just unhappy. People are mean spirited to you.
Yeah.
They aren't doing or considering you. It's time to go. Like, happy moments, few and far between, is just not worth the time and effort.
Right. And I think that our tools are good for a lot of things. I think the things that we have to consider is the time that people have put into certain, I wouldn't call it a relationship. At this point, it would be a marriage. We are in a long-term relationship and we haven't even began the talk of marriage.
Yeah.
Then what are we doing?
For real.
But if we're in a marriage, if we're in a 10, 20, 30-year marriage and we have these moments, and I think it's important that, for one, it's not going to be as easy to walk away.
Yeah.
Right? 15 years compared to 2 years is a big difference.
Yeah.
Right? So the tools would be a lot different, I think. 15 years, that means it requires more work.
I stand by my tools.
Okay.
I do. Because in 15 years, if we haven't learned each other and learned how to consider one another, that's a problem.
Well, considering for sure. Considering each other.
If we're consistently arguing and there are very few happy moments, there's something that's wrong.
No, for sure.
You know, if we have, tried to well, maybe some people don't even try to communicate, but if I've tried to communicate or, suggested that we do something to better the relationship and you're not receptive to it, time is short. Life is short for you to stay in situations that don't serve you.
That is true.
And I am here for, you get yourself together. And when you do, maybe we can revisit something. You know what I mean? Because being unhappy for long periods is just...
It's not okay.
Damaging.
It is damaging. I think what I mean is when it comes to something that has been very long term, like 15 years, you're going to have moments or periods where things just aren't right.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's what I mean.
For sure.
Not a consistent battle, but there may be 1 or 2 years where it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
We are changing and we have to figure out how to navigate this change together.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, then it can separate us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think the important part is both people having the willpower to look outside themselves.
Yes.
Because I think a lot of people will say, well, I've tried to communicate. But it's like, but you don't even understand how you communicate.
Yeah.
And you have a listening for a person that you only hear them one way and you can't hear them a different way. So that's why it's beneficial to have a third party neutral party that can come in.
It's not communicating.
Yes. You know what I mean?
You're
it's
yelling.
Like, oh, I told him. And it's like, but you really didn't. So tell me what you said. And now think about what you said and say it back to yourself.
And if he
ask
said
yourself,
that to you.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think like when it comes to situations like that, years, when you put a foundation, if you built a foundation together, it is a lot harder to walk away. So that means it requires more work. So I know sometimes we have this, the grass is greener on the other side mentality. And I never want to give that for y'all because the grass will never be greener on the other side.
Right.
When you think like
everywhere
that.
It takes growth. You have to fertilize every grass that you're a part of.
That part.
Yeah.
That part. Every relationship that you have is going to take work. It will never just be easy. And if it is, I would have to question, how are you really showing up for me? Because 1, I don't need a yes man. And for 2, I don't need superficial friendships or relationships with people.
Correct. Yeah.
So if you're always showing up and everything is always good and at no point do we come against anything and then we work it out together, or if you don't challenge me or hold me accountable to what I say, not to even the expectations you have on me, because you should have no expectations for me, especially depending on how you show up in my life.
Right.
But if I come to you and I say, these are the expectations I have for myself and this is how I want to show up, then my expectation of you as a friend, which will always be communicated, is to make sure that I show up that way every time that I'm around you. And you having the authority and the power to say, Ebony, this ain't it. That right there. You know what I mean? Because if I do call you a friend, or even if I don't call you a friend, but you're someone that is in my life and it's
Yeah.
someone that I talk to and I confide in with certain things, then that means I have a trust in what it is you're telling me. I'm going to take in, and I'm a thinker. Sometimes I may not get it in a moment, but then I go and I sit with it like, okay, how can I consider this person? Maybe what I said, I'm not even realizing what I said or how I said it.
Yeah.
What can, like, I always say for myself, what opportunity is there for me to grow in this moment?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what can I learn from? And I think having those moments of reflection, like you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier, is so very important and very crucial to the evolution of any relationship that you have with a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
Well, I've hoped that everyone has gotten something that they can take away from this episode and really apply it, to life today.
Yeah.
We'll see them next time.
All right, guys. I'm your girl, Ebony.
Stephanie.
And thank you for joining us on the Talk Kill Evolve podcast.
Yes.
Until next time. Bye.
See you then. Bye.